He found me on a Tuesday. Of all the days, a Tuesday 3 years, 2 months, and 11 days after I disappeared from his life, and the Alpha King of the Blackworm Kingdom was standing on my porch in the rain at 6 o'clock in the morning, staring at the 2 toddlers on my hips. I should tell you what his face looked like in that moment. I should describe the way his golden eyes went wide, then wider, then so wide I thought they might shatter. The way his mouth opened, but nothing came out. The way his hands, those massive, powerful hands that had once held me like I was the most precious thing in the world, started shaking. But I can't because I was too busy slamming the door in his face. The dead bull clicked, my back hit the wood, and I slewed to the floor with my children. His children clutched against my chest. Mama, my daughter. Elspeth, 2 years old with her father's golden eyes and my stubbornness. Why is the big man sad? He's not sad, baby. He's lost. He came to the wrong house. A lie. The first of many. I had told my children about their father. But let me back up. Let me take you to the night everything shattered. The night I lost everything I thought I had. The night I walked in on my mate, my fated mate, my Alpha King with my sister in his bed, and the night I vanished 3 years and 2 months earlier. My name is Lady Genevieve and I was the luckiest woman alive. At least that is what everyone told me. Made it to Alpha King Valerus at 21. Luna of the most powerful territory in the northern region. Living in a palace that had more rooms than my childhood Packard members. Wearing dresses that cost more than my mother earned in a year. Lucky, the orphan Omega who caught the Alpha King's eye at a mating ball. The nobody from the Tristanwood borderlands who somehow impossibly turned out to be the fated mate of the most powerful wolf in 5 territories. I remember the night we met. The ball was enormous. Hundreds of wolves, music, candlelight, and me hiding in a corner, wearing a borrowed dress that was 2 sizes too big, wishing I was anywhere else. Then the crowd parted, and he was there, 6 feet 4 inches, dark hair, jaw that could have been carved from granite, and those eyes, golden amber, locked onto me from across the room like I was the only person in it. The mate bond hit us both at the same time. I felt it in my chest. A pull so strong it stole my breath like a hook behind my sternum, reeling me toward him. He crossed the room in 4 strides. The crowd scattered. Wolves literally tripped over themselves to get out of his way. He stopped in front of me. Looked down. I looked up and he said one word, mine. 6 months later, I was his. Luna, his queen, his everything. Or so I thought. The first year was a dream. The kind of dream you are terrified to wake up from because you know in your bones that real life cannot possibly be this good. Valerus was everything. Protective without being controlling, strong without being harsh. He would come home from council meetings and find me in the library and just sit with me. Not talking, not needing anything, just sitting close enough that our shoulders touched. He learned that I liked chamomile tea before bed. So every night, every single night, there was a cup waiting on my nightstand. He never mentioned it. I never asked. He learned that I had nightmares about my childhood, about the pack that threw me away, about being hungry and cold and invisible. And on the nights when I woke up gasping, he would pull me against his chest and press his lips to my hair and say, "You are here. You are safe. You are mine. Go back to sleep." And I would. Because I believed him. I believed every single word. The cracks started in the 2nd year. Small things at first, things I explained away because that is what you do when you love someone. You smooth over the rough edges. You fill in the gaps with trust. He started working later. Council meetings that ran past midnight. Border disputes that required his personal attention. A territory doesn't run itself. Lady Genevieve, you understand? I understood. He became distracted. Present in body but somewhere else entirely in mind. I would talk to him over dinner and his eyes would drift. I would reach for his hand and feel the smallest, the tiniest hesitation before he took it. I noticed. I said nothing. And then my sister arrived. Isolde, I need you to understand something about Isolde before we go further. My sister was everything I was not. Where I was quiet, she was magnetic. Where I was plain, she was stunning, tall, willowy, red hair that caught the light like fire, a laugh that made every head in the room turn. She was the one our pack had expected to marry well, the one who was supposed to have the fairy tale, but fate had given it to me instead. And the look on Isolde's face when she arrived at the palace, when she saw my crown, my title, my mate, I should have recognized that look. I didn't. She's my sister, I told Valerus. She has nowhere else to go. Our pack dissolved after the border wars. She's alone. Please. Of course, he said. She's your family. She is welcome here. He was kind to her. Attentive. The way he was kind and attentive to everyone. That was just Valerus. That was just who he was. But Isolde made sure she was always where he was, at breakfast, in the training yard, at council meetings where she had no business being, always laughing, always touching his arm when she spoke, always finding reasons to be close. I noticed. I said nothing because she was my sister and he was my mate. And the bond between fated mates was unbreakable. Right. The night it happened was the night of the harvest moon celebration. The palace was full. Music, dancing, wolves from allied territories celebrating the end of the harvest. I was supposed to be at Valerus's side for the opening ceremony, but I was sick. I had been sick for 3 days. Nausea that hit in waves, a dizziness that came and went. I thought it was stress, overwork, the pressure of being Luna during the busiest season of the year. I didn't know yet. Didn't know that the nausea was not stress. That the dizziness was not overwork, that my body was already changing, already growing, already carrying the 2 tiny lives that would become my entire world. I didn't know I was pregnant. I just knew I was sick and tired. And when I told Valerus I couldn't make the ceremony, he kissed my forehead and said, "Rest. I'll handle it." I rested. For about 2 hours. Then I felt better. The nausea passed. Energy returned. And I thought I would surprise him, walk into the celebration, find him, dance with my mate under the harvest moon. I got dressed, did my hair, put on the gold dress he loved. The celebration was in full swing when I arrived. Music. Laughter, hundreds of wolves drinking and dancing under the moonlight. I searched for Valerus. He wasn't in the great hall, wasn't on the terrace, wasn't in the garden. His scent led me upstairs to the private wing to our bedroom. The door was slightly open. Candlelight flickered through the gap. And I heard his voice low, rough. The voice he used only with me, only in the dark. Only when we were alone and the world outside didn't exist. That voice saying her name, Isolde. I pushed the door open and I saw them. My mate, my fated mate, my king, the man who left. Chamomile tea on my nightstand every single night in our bed with my sister. There is a moment, a very specific moment when something breaks so completely inside you that you don't feel anything at all. No pain, no rage. No grief, just nothing. A vast white ringing nothing that fills your entire body from the soles of your feet to the crown of your head. I stood in that doorway and I felt nothing. Valerus saw me first. His eyes, those golden eyes that had looked at me with such love, went wide with horror. Lady Genevieve. Iseldine turned and the look on her face. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't shame. It was triumph. A small, satisfied, victorious smile that said, finally. Finally. You see, finally, you know. What I've known all along. That you were never enough. I closed the door quietly. Gently. The way you close a coffin. Lady Genevieve, his voice. Behind the wood. Footsteps. The door handle rattling. Lady Genevieve, wait. Let me explain. It's not what it is exactly what it looks like, I whispered. But he couldn't hear me because I was already walking away. I packed one bag, one. I didn't take the dresses, the jewelry, the crown, the lunar robes, the gifts he had given me over 2 years of marriage. I took my mother's locket, a change of clothes. What little money I had saved, and I left. I didn't use the front gates. Valerus would have guards watching within minutes. I used the passage through the old kitchen, the one the servants had shown me months ago when I was exploring the palace. It led to the mountain trail behind the east wall. The night was cold. The harvest moon hung above me like a spotlight, like even the sky wanted to make sure I could see every step of my own destruction. I ran in human form. I couldn't risk shifting. Not with wolves patrolling the borders. I ran through the forest, branches tearing at my gold dress, stones cutting my bare feet. I hadn't stopped to put on shoes. It didn't matter. Nothing mattered. I ran until the forest ended and the road began. I ran until my lungs burned and my legs buckled. I ran until the palace, that beautiful, terrible, lying palace, disappeared behind the mountains. And then I stopped. I stood on a dirt road in the middle of nowhere, wearing a torn gold dress and no shoes, with nothing but a locket and a broken heart. And I laughed because what else do you do when the dream turns out to be a nightmare? When the fairy tale turns out to be a lie? When the man who said, "You are mine," turns out to mean, "You are mine, but so is she," you laugh. And then you disappear. I found Stoneglen Hamlet 3 days later, a human town, small, tucked between mountains that blocked most wolf territories from even knowing it existed. Population 800, no pack, no wolves, no one who would recognize the former lunar of the Blackworm Kingdom. I rented a room above a bakery. The owner, a kind, weathered woman named Mother Marga, took one look at my bare feet and torn dress and didn't ask a single question. She just handed me a cup of tea and said, "The room is $30 a month. You can work in the bakery if you need the money. We open at 5. I started the next morning and I built a new life, a small life, a quiet life, a life that fit me the way that Palace never did. I woke at 4:30, baked bread, served Cosgoodman Silas's, learned to make pastries and coffee and the kind of sourdough that people drove 40 minutes for. I rented a cottage at the edge of town, tiny, 2 rooms, a garden where I grew herbs and Goodman solicitos and lavender that made the whole house smell like summer. I made friends slowly, carefully, the way a wounded animal learns to trust again. Mother Marga, her husband Goodman Silas, the librarian scribe Phoebe, the Dr. Maester Julian, who was the first person in Grey Hollow to learn my secret, because 6 weeks after I arrived, the nausea came back, and this time I knew it wasn't stress. Twins? I was carrying twins. My knees hit the floor of the doctor's office. Maester Julian caught me before I fell sideways. Is this good news or bad news? He asked carefully. I stared at the ancient sensing image. 2 tiny heartbeats. 2 tiny lives growing inside the body of a woman who had nothing. No mate, no pack, no home, no money beyond what a bakery paid. Both, I whispered. It's both. Maester Julian became my anchor. Not romantically, never that, but as the steady, reliable human friend who drove me to appointments and assembled a second-hand crib and argued with me about herbal tonics. You need to eat more, Lady Genevieve. I eat plenty. You eat bread. You work in a bakery and you eat bread for every meal. That is not a prenatal diet. Bread is a food group. Bread is a food, not a group. There's a difference. I smiled more in those months than I had in the last year at the palace. Not because I was happy, not entirely, but because for the first time in my life, I was building something that was mine, not given to me, not assigned to me, not dependent on a mate bond or a crown or a man who promised forever and delivered betrayal. Mine. The twins came early. 36 weeks, a snowstorm. Maester Julian driving white-knuckled through icy roads to the nearest sanctuary 40 minutes away while I gripped the carriage rail and breathed through contractions that felt like they were splitting me in half. Elspeth came first, screaming, furious, golden eyes wide open from the very first second, her father's eyes. I almost broke right there in the delivery room, almost. Shattered into pieces that no one could put back together. Then Tristan came, quiet. Watchful, dark hair like his father, but my eyes brown, steady, calm. 2 tiny people who had no idea that their mother was crying for reasons that had nothing to do with the pain of labor and everything to do with the fact that they would never know. They would never know him. And that was my choice, my decision, my protection. Because I knew with absolute certainty that if King Valerus discovered he had children, he would come for them. Not for me, for them. An alpha king needs heirs. And fated mate or not, betrayal or not, broken heart or not, he would take them. So I hid. I hid so well that the most powerful alpha in 5 territories with his trackers and his scouts and his resources could not find me for 3 years. Let me tell you about those 3 years. They were hard. Harder than anything I have ever done. Harder than running barefoot through a forest. Harder than watching my mate with my sister. Harder than packing one bag and walking away from everything. Raising twins alone in a human town with no wolf support. No pack, no family. It was impossible. And I did it anyway. Elspeth was wild. She was wolf through and through. Even at 18 months, she growled at strangers. Actually growled at the mailman, at the grocery store clerk, at poor Mother Marga's cat, who never quite recovered from the experience. Her eyes shifted gold when she was angry, which was often. I learned to keep sunglasses on her in public. Tiny toddler. Sunglasses that she pulled off every 30 seconds because she was her father's daughter and she did not like being told what to do. Tristan was different, quiet, observant. He would sit in his crib and watch the world with those brown eyes like he was cataloging everything. Memorizing it, filing it away. He rarely cried. When Elspeth screamed, and Elspeth screamed a lot, Tristan would reach over and put his tiny hand on her arm and she would stop. He was 2 years old, and he was already a better emotional regulator than most adults I knew. They were everything. Every sleepless night, every formula-stained shirt, every frantic drive to Mayes to Julian when one of them had a fever. And I didn't know if it was a human fever or a wolf fever. And the difference mattered. They were everything. And every single day I looked at Elspeth's golden eyes and saw her father's face. And every single day I swallowed the ache and the rage and the love, because yes, the love was still there, buried deep, refusing to die no matter how many times I tried to kill it. And I kept going because that is what mothers do. We keep going. Now, let me tell you about the day the Alpha King found me. It started with the bakery. Mother Marga had a website, a small one. Nothing fancy, just pictures of pastries and a phone number and a little about us. Page with a photo of the team. I was in the background of one photo, barely visible. Flour on my face, hair pulled back, no name listed, but my face was there, and someone saw it. I don't know who. One of Valerus's trackers, maybe. A scout passing through. Someone who remembered the face of the Luna who vanished 3 years ago. It didn't matter who. What mattered was the black heavy carriage that appeared on Grey Hollow's main street at 5:45 in the morning on a Tuesday. I was opening the bakery. Elspeth was on my left hip, eating a piece of bread she had stolen from the cooling rack. Tristan was on my right hip, quietly observing the sunrise. I heard the engine first, then the door, then the footsteps. Heavy, measured, the walk of a man who commanded armies and conquered territories. I knew those footsteps. I had listened to them echo through palace corridors for 2 years. I had fallen asleep to the rhythm of them pacing outside our bedroom when he thought I was already dreaming. I turned around and there he was, King Valerus, 3 years older, thinner, dark circles under his eyes. His hair was longer, unkempt. Like he had stopped caring about how he looked. His jaw, that granite jaw, was covered in stubble that was almost a beard. But his eyes were the same, golden, burning, locked onto me with an intensity that made the mate bond, that traitorous, stubborn, impossible mate bond that I had spent 3 years trying to bury, raw to life. In my chest. Lady Genevieve, my name in his mouth. After 3 years, it sounded like a prayer and a wound at the same time. I couldn't speak. And then Elspeth, my beautiful, impossible, perfectly timed daughter, turned her golden eyes toward the stranger and said, "Mama, why does he smell like us?" The sound Valerus made. I have heard wolves howl in grief. I have heard warriors scream in battle. I have heard the death cries of animals and the wailing of mothers and every terrible sound this world has to offer. None of them compared to the sound that came out of King Valerus when he realized the toddlers in my arms had his eyes. Now you know the moment I started with the door slamming, the deadbolt, my back against the wood, 2 children clutched to my chest. But the story doesn't end there. Because the Alpha King did not leave. He sat on my porch in the rain for 6 hours, I know. Because I checked. Every 30 minutes I pulled back the curtain and looked. And every single time he was there, sitting on the wooden steps. Soaked, head in his hands, not moving. He didn't bang on the door. Didn't use his alpha voice. Didn't command or threaten or demand. He just sat there at noon. Elspeth pulled on my sleeve. "Mama. The sad man is still outside." "I know. Baby. Is he cold?" "Probably. Should we give him a blanket?" My daughter, 2 years old, offering a blanket to the man who broke her mother's heart. No, Elspeth. Why not? Because some people don't deserve blankets. But you always say everyone deserves warm. I closed my eyes. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Maester Julian showed up. I heard voices outside, muffled through the door. Who are you, Maester Julian? Protective, suspicious. I need to see Lady Genevieve. Rough, broken. She doesn't want to see you. And you're staring my patients. I have a clinic 2 doors down. Move. I'm not leaving. I'm calling the police. Call them. Maester Julian knocked on my door. I opened it a crack. Lady Genevieve, there is a very large, very wet, very stubborn man on your porch who says he is not leaving until you talk to him. Should I be concerned? I looked past Maester Julian. Valerous's eyes found mine through the crack, and the expression on his face, raw, desperate, shattered. It's fine, Maester Julian. I know him. Know him how? I paused. He's their father. Maester Julian looked at the twins. Looked at Valerus, looked back at me. Do you want me to stay? No, I need to do this alone. Maester Julian left reluctantly with 3 backward glances. I opened the door. Valerus stood up. Water ran off him in sheets. He was shaking, not from the cold. Wolves don't get cold, but from something else. Something I had never seen in him before. Fear. The Alpha King was afraid. Good. You have 5 minutes, I said. Sarah. 5 minutes, then you leave and you never come back. He flinched. Actually. Flinched like I had hit him. Can I come inside? No. Okay. He swallowed hard. Okay, I deserve that. You deserve worse. I know. We stood there, me in the doorway, him on the porch, the rain falling between us like a curtain. They are mine, he said. Those children there, they are mine. They are mine. I corrected him. I carried them. I birthed them. I raised them. I raised them alone. For 3 years. They are mine. Lady Genevieve, you don't get to say my name like that. You lost that right when I know what I lost. His voice cracked, not with anger. With grief. I know what I lost, Lady Genevieve. I have known every single day for 3 years. 2 months and 11 days. I have counted every day, every hour, every. His voice broke. I didn't tell myself to feel nothing. I didn't have to. 3 years of survival had built walls so thick that even the mate bond couldn't crack them. At least that's what I told myself. Why are you here, Valerus? Because I never stopped looking. Congratulations. You found me. Now leave. I can't. You can. You walk to your car. You drive away. You go back to your palace and your territory and your. I stopped myself and her. Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. She is not there. Isolde has not been in my territory for 2 years and 11 months. I didn't react. Didn't let myself react. I don't care. Lady Genevieve, what happened that night? What you saw? I saw enough. You didn't. You saw the worst moment of my life. And you left before you could what? Explain. What possible explanation? She drugged me. Silence. The rain fell. I stared at him. Isolde. Drugged me. He repeated. His voice was hollow, flat. The voice of a man who had said these words 1,000 times and had never been believed. Wolfsbane extract mixed with moonflower. It suppresses the mate bond. It suppresses everything. Judgment, memory, control. I didn't know what was happening until you were already standing in the doorway. My hands were shaking. I pressed them against the door frame to keep steady. That's convenient. It's the truth. How would I know that? How would I know anything you say is the truth? Because I tore my own territory apart looking for proof. It took 3 months. She covered her tracks well, but I found the Wolfsbane supplier. Found the moonflower source. Found messages between a soldier and a rival pack that wanted you removed as Luna. It was planned, Lady Genevieve. All of it. Your sister wanted you gone. She wanted my throne. And she used me to make it happen. I couldn't breathe. I believed you were my whole world, he continued. And she knew that. She knew the only way to break us was to make you believe I chose someone else. So she manufactured exactly that. My vision blurred. Not from tears. I would not give him tears. From rage. Where is she now? My voice was ice. Vanished permanently. She will never set foot in any Allied territory again. The rival pack that helped her was dissolved. I handled it. You handled it. What else could I do? You were gone. I couldn't find you. I searched Lady Genevieve. I searched everywhere, every territory, every pack, every town, every village, every city. I spent 3 years in every resource I had trying to find the woman who vanished like smoke. And now you found me. And now I found you. Another silence. And them. Yes, and them. He looked past me into the cottage where Elspeth was standing in the hallway with her tiny arms crossed and her golden eyes narrowed at the stranger. She looks like me, Valerus whispered. She acts like you, too. Stubborn, loud, refuses to listen to anyone. A sound escaped him. Half laugh, half sob. And the boy Tristan is quiet. He watches everything. Figures things out before anyone else. Like you. I said nothing. Sarah, I know I have no right. I know what this looks like. I know you have every reason to slam this door and never open it again. Then why are you still standing here? Because I love you. I have loved you every second of every day since the night you disappeared. I loved you when I was tearing my kingdom apart. Looking for answers. I loved you when I was hunting your sister down. I loved you when I woke up every morning in our bed alone and your scent was fading and I thought I might actually die from the loss of it. His voice dropped. And I love them. I love those 2 children I just found out exist. I don't know them. I don't know their favorite foods or their bedtimes or whether they like books or songs or what makes them laugh. But I love them because they are yours and you are mine. Even if you hate me. Even if you never forgive me. Even if you slam this door and disappear again. He stepped back off the porch into the rain. I'm going to stay in this town. I saw her in on the main road. I'll be there not to pressure you, not to force anything, but because I just found out I have 2 children and I am not capable of being further than a mile away from them right now. He looked at me one more time. 5 minutes. You gave me 5 minutes and I am grateful for every second. He turned and he walked away. I closed the door. I slid to the floor and the tears I had been holding back for 3 years, the tears I had swallowed and buried and denied and refused to shed, they came. He stayed. Not just that night, the next day and the next and the next. The inn owner, Betty, called me on day 3. Lady Genevieve, there's a man the size of a mountain in room 6 who ordered room service and then stared at the food for 20 minutes without eating it. He looks like he hasn't slept since the fall of the old king. Is he yours? No, Betty. He's not mine. Well, he's someone's. And someone should probably make sure he eats. I didn't go. But on day 4, Elspeth did something that changed everything. We were at the playground. The one behind the library. The twins were on the swings and I was sitting on the bench pretending to read when Elspeth suddenly stopped swinging, jumped off. She was 2. This child had no fear and ran straight toward the inn. Elspeth. I grabbed Tristan and sprinted after her. She was fast, terrifyingly fast for a toddler. Wolf jeans, her little legs pumped with a speed that was not normal for a human child. And I was going to have a very serious talk with the moon goddess about this later. I caught up to her in the inn table area. She was standing in front of room 6. The door was open and Valerus was kneeling in the doorway, eye level with my daughter. Those matching golden eyes staring at each other. Elspeth reached out and touched his face. You have my eyes, she announced. Valerus, the Alpha King, the conqueror of territories, the man who had never shown weakness to anyone broke. Tears, real, uncontrollable. Devastating tears rolling down the face of the most powerful wolf in 5 territories while a 2-year-old girl touched his cheek. What's your name? He whispered. Elspeth, what's yours? Valerus. That's a big name. You're very big. Are all sad people big? He laughed through his tears. I don't know. Maybe Elspeth considered this. My mama makes tea when people are sad. Do you want tea? I was standing 10 feet away, holding Tristan, watching my daughter do what I could not bring myself to do. Bridge the gap. Valerus looked at me over Elspeth's head. His eyes were red-rimmed, swollen, wrecked. He didn't ask. Didn't beg, didn't say a single word. He just looked at me with those golden eyes that said, please, please. I know I don't deserve this, but please. Tristan squirmed in my arms. He reached toward Valerus, not with urgency. With that calm, measured curiosity that was so perfectly Tristan, Mama, I set him down. He walked. He was a steady walker. Always had been. Straight to Valerus. Stopped. In front of him. Studied his face with those old soul brown eyes. Then he put both tiny hands on Valerus's cheeks and held his face the way I used to hold his face when he woke from nightmares. It's okay, Tristan said. You can cry. Mama says. Crying is just your heart talking. Valerus shattered completely. Utterly, irreversibly shattered. He gathered both children against his chest so carefully. So gently, like they were made of something more precious than anything his kingdom had ever contained. And he sobbed. I stood in a in-table area and watched my children heal a broken man, and the walls I had built, those thick, necessary survival walls, cracked. I didn't forgive him that day or the next. Or the one after that. Forgiveness isn't a moment. It's a process. And I was not ready to process anything other than the reality that my children had met their father. And they loved him instantly. Devastatingly, completely. Elspeth claimed him like he was a new toy. She dragged him to the playground, made him push her on the swings, made him sit in the sandbox. This enormous man folded into a Children's sandbox like a pretzel while she buried his feet and told him very seriously that he was now a sandcastle. Tristan was slower, more careful. He watched Valerus for days before approaching. Observed the way Valerus interacted with Elspeth, studied his expressions, catalogued his behavior, and then one evening, quietly, without announcement, Tristan climbed into Valerus's lap while he was sitting on my porch and fell asleep. Valerus didn't move for 4 hours. His leg fell asleep, his back seized. He didn't move a single inch. When I came to collect Tristan for bedtime, Valerus looked up at me with tears on his face and said, "I missed this. I missed 2 years of this. 2 years of them growing and learning and in sand castles in bedtime." And his voice failed. "I know. And I am so sorry, Genevieve. Not just for what happened, for all of it. For the fact that you did this alone, for every midnight feeding, every fever, every first step. I wasn't there, for I am sorry for all of it." The walls cracked a little more. 3 weeks after he arrived in Stoneglen Hamlet, I led him inside the cottage for the first time. He stood in my tiny living room, this massive man in this tiny space, and looked at every single thing like it was a museum exhibit. The photos on the wall, the twins at 1 week, 1 month, 6 months. First birthday, each milestone that he had missed, documented in frames that I had bought for $2 each at the thrift store. He stared at those photos for a long time. "I didn't have any of these," he said quietly. "I didn't even know they existed. I didn't know. I didn't know there were 2 people in this world with my eyes and your heart. And I missed all of it." He turned to me. "I will never miss another moment. Whether you take me back or not, whether you forgive me or not, I will be here in this town, in that inn, on this porch for the rest of my life. If that's what it takes, I believe you." He blinked. "You do? I believe that you'll stay. I believe that you'll love them. I believe that you love them. I believe that you want to be their father." I paused. "I'm not ready to believe the rest. Not yet." He nodded slowly. "I'll wait. You might be waiting a long time. I've already waited 3 years. What's a little longer?" He waited patiently. Consistently. Without pressure. He rented a small house 2 blocks from mine. He walked the twins to the bakery every morning while I opened. He picked them up every afternoon while I closed. He learned to braid Elspeth's hair badly at first, hilariously badly, until she declared that Daddy's braids were her favorite, even though they look like a bird's nest. He read to Tristan every night. History books. The boy was 2 years old. And he wanted history books. Valerus obliged, sat on the floor of the tiny nursery, back against the wall, reading about ancient wolf territories in the most soothing voice I had ever heard. Until Tristan's brown eyes drifted closed. He didn't push me, didn't cross the line, didn't try to touch me or kiss me or invoke the mate bond, but I felt it. Every time he was near. Every time our hands accidentally brushed when passing a child between us, every time I caught him looking at me with those golden eyes that said everything his mouth never did, the bond was still there, burning. Waiting, and I was still angry. Not at him, not anymore. The investigation, he described the soldiers' drugging, the rival pack's involvement. I had verified it myself, made calls, checked records. It was true. All of it. I was angry at 3 years. 3 years of doing it alone. 3 years of fear and exhaustion and midnight feedings and teething and fevers and loneliness so deep it had a taste. 3 years that we could have had together. 3 years that my sister stole from us. The night I forgave him, it didn't happen the way you'd expect. There was no grand gesture, no speech, no dramatic moment. It was a Wednesday. 11 p.m. Tristan had a fever. A wolf fever, the kind that runs dangerously high. Because their little bodies are fighting between the human and wolf sides. I was panicking. Maester Julian was 40 minutes away. The nearest pack healer was across 2 territories. I called Valerus. He was at my door in 90 seconds, barefoot, shirt inside out. He had run. He took Tristan from my arms, held him against his chest, and did something I had never seen before. He hummed. A low vibrating sound that came from deep in his chest. A wolf thing. An alpha thing. A frequency that told the child's wolf, it's okay. Your alpha is here. Your father is here. You're safe. Calm down. Let the fever break. Tristan's temperature dropped within minutes. I stood in my kitchen watching the Alpha King rock my son back to sleep, humming a frequency that only a father's wolf could produce. And I thought I could have had this from the beginning. Every fever, every nightmare, every terrifying moment of raising wolf children alone in a human town. He could have been here. He should have been here. And the only reason he wasn't was because a woman I trusted used dark magic to destroy us. The anger didn't disappear, but it shifted away from him. Toward the right target. And in its place, something else grew. Valerus looked up from her sleeping son. Is he okay? He's okay. Are you okay? No. I'm not. He went still. I'm not okay, Valerus. I haven't been okay in 3 years. I've been strong. I've been capable. I've been the mother these children needed. But I have not been okay. Lady Genevieve, I'm tired. I'm tired of being angry. I'm tired of being these alone. I'm tired of looking at our daughter's eyes and seeing your face and feeling like my chest is caving in. My voice broke. I'm tired of pretending that I don't still love you. He stood. Slowly, carefully, Tristan still cradled against his chest. His free hand reached for me, stopped, hovered. I closed the gap. I pressed my forehead against his shoulder, the one not holding our son, and I breathed. His arm came around me, pulling me into him, wrapping me against his body the way he used to, the way that used to make me feel like nothing in the world could touch me. And the mate bond, that stubborn, patient, impossible bond, sang. I felt him shudder. Felt his face press into my hair. Felt the wetness of his tears against my scalp. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. I know that, too. We stood in my tiny kitchen, a sleeping child between us. 3 years of pain and anger and loneliness dissolving like salt in warm water. And I thought this is what I ran from and this is what I was running toward. The entire time. The ceremony happened in Stone Glen Hamlet, not in the palace, not in the territory. In the small garden behind my cottage with lavender blooming and the twins running circles around us. Valerus wore a white shirt. No crown, no robes, just a man standing in a garden. Waiting for his mate. I wore a sundress, yellow. Elspeth picked it out. Mother Marga officiated. Scribe Phoebe read a poem. Maester Julian stood in the back with his arms crossed and a look on his face that said, I will end you if you hurt her again. And also, I am definitely crying right now. The vows were simple. I, King Valerus, take you, Lady Genevieve, as my mate, my Luna, my heart. Not because the bond chose us, but because I choose you. Again, every day for the rest of my life. I, Lady Genevieve, take you, King Valerus, as my mate, my king, my home. Not because I forgive you. I'm still working on that. But because I love you and I choose to love you even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. He laughed, wet, broken, beautiful. The mark was exchanged. The bond solidified. And Elspeth, standing between us in her flower girl dress with golden eyes shining, looked up at both of us and said, finally, can we have cake now? We had cake. And that is where we end tonight's story. Not in a palace, not on a throne, in a small garden behind a bakery, in a town that nobody knows about. With a man who spent 3 years searching for the woman he lost, and a woman who spent 3 years building a life strong enough to survive without him, and 2 golden-eyed children who brought them back together. And tell me this. Should Lady have forgiven him or should she have kept that door closed? I want to know what you think. If this story made you feel something, if Lady and Valerus got under your skin even a little bit, hit that like button so I know. The moon is about to set in the west, but our secrets have just been locked away in this library. Thank you for spending this unforgettable night with me. If you, too, are captivated by these heartbeats hidden in the darkness of the night, please click subscribe and turn on the notification bell to become an honorary member of this library. Leave your thoughts in the comments section. Tonight, were you moved by the Werewolf King's deep affection, or did you succumb to the Count's forbidden kiss? I'm Luna, and I'm in the secret library, guarding the next story until the moon rises again. Good night, and sweet dreams.